Sometimes, the people we trust most are the ones who teach us how strong we truly are. Pain, when stripped of illusion, becomes a brutal form of clarity. Betrayed by her ex, a pregnant woman becomes the sole love of a powerful millionaire, leaving him in regret. In a world where betrayal runs deep and love blooms from the most unexpected places, follow the heart-wrenching journey of Camilla Hartley, a woman who believed she had everything, until her world crumbled at the hands of her unfaithful ex-boyfriend, Ethan Caldwell. Pregnant and alone, Camilla's future looked bleak, until fate brought her face to face with one of the most powerful millionaires in Los Angeles. Julian Wexler changed her life forever. Step into a tale of heartbreak and hope, fiery passion and scandalous secrets, where loyalties are tested and shocking twists lie around every corner. This is a story you won't want to miss. Camilla Hartley never imagined she'd find herself sobbing on the cold hardwood floor of her apartment, barely able to lift her head. The 29-year-old interior designer had built what she believed was a beautiful life alongside her longtime boyfriend, Ethan Caldwell. They lived in a cozy two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Los Angeles, a place filled with art, books, and cherished memories of late-night cuddles and whispered dreams. But in one devastating moment, all that peace shattered when she discovered Ethan's explicit messages to another woman. Camilla felt like her heart had been ripped from her chest. Ethan, always the smooth talker, had known just how to make Camilla feel adored and safe. But as she read those messages, her trust in him disintegrated like old paper. Who was this Sabrina, declaring her love and planning romantic getaways in boutique hotels? Worse, Ethan had apparently been basking in her affections for months, then coming home to Camilla as if nothing was wrong. The sting of betrayal coursed through Camilla's veins, boiling her blood and icing her soul. Tears clouded her vision as she clutched a framed photo on the coffee table, one of her and her late mother, Margot Hartley, who had passed away the year before. Margot had always known what to say. Without her mother's steady voice, Camilla felt more alone than ever. Her body sagged with despair, faint sobs escaping her throat. At that moment, Ethan walked into the apartment. "What's with all the crying?" he asked, sounding more annoyed than concerned. Camilla glared at him, holding up her phone. "I read your messages, Ethan. Don't even try to lie." Her voice trembled with rage and heartbreak. Ethan's face lost color for a moment, then shifted into a smug mix of guilt and irritation. "Camilla, it's not what you think." "Not what I think," she snapped, tears glistening on her flushed cheeks. "You told another woman you loved her, and you've been lying to me. You promised me forever." He tried to take her hand, but she yanked it away. "I never asked you to wait around," he snapped, frustration evident. "Things got complicated. We grew apart. Sabrina just happened." The coldness in his voice sliced through Camilla's heart like a blade. Every memory, their first date at Griffith Park, their late-night gelato runs on Sunset, the stolen kisses beneath falling sycamore leaves, now felt like a cruel joke. The love she once believed in was gone, replaced by the stark reality of a man who didn't care that she was falling apart. "I'm leaving," she managed, summoning the last fragments of her dignity. "And don't you dare follow me." Grabbing her purse, Camilla fled the apartment, ignoring Ethan's half-hearted pleas. Beneath the amber streetlights of Los Angeles, her tears streamed down her face, blending with the light mist that coated the sidewalks. She had no idea where she was going. One question echoed in her mind: what now? By morning, Camilla found herself at the doorstep of her best friend, Nina Morales. The moment Nina opened the door, her warm brown eyes were filled with concern. Without a word, she pulled Camilla into a tight hug. "I'm sorry," Nina whispered, guiding Camilla into the cozy living room. "I never liked Ethan, but I never thought he'd do something like this." Camilla sank into the plush couch, hugging a throw pillow like it could shield her from the world. "I don't know what to do," she confessed. "I poured my entire life into that relationship. I can't believe it's just over." Nina made a pot of chamomile tea, their go-to whenever life fell apart. The steam swirled gently, doing little to soothe Camilla's nerves, but the warmth reminded her she wasn't alone. Nina's apartment was a comforting chaos: trinkets from her travels, postcards from Kyoto, pressed flowers from Edinburgh. Each corner whispered stories of resilience and independence, qualities Camilla desperately needed now. They sat side by side, sipping tea in silence. Finally, Nina cleared her throat. Look, I know this is hard, but you deserve better. You're an amazing woman, Mila. You have talent, you have heart. Don't let Ethan's betrayal erase everything you've built. Camila's eyes brimmed with new tears. But I gave him everything, Nina. And now I have nothing. Nina squeezed her shoulder gently. You have me. And you still have your future. It's wide open. Maybe this is a sign, she added softly, that there's someone else out there. Someone who'll actually respect you and treat you the way you deserve. The idea felt distant, unreal. Right now, all Camila could feel was her broken heart. She pressed a hand to her abdomen as a slight cramp fluttered through her. She had been feeling off for several days, blaming it on stress. But now, with her world in ruins, a sense of dread began to settle in. Her period was late, very late. Inhaling sharply, Camila locked eyes with Nina. I might be pregnant. The words shook on her lips like a fragile confession. Nina's eyes widened. Have you taken a test? Camila shook her head, her gaze fixed on her feet. The truth was too much to face. Could life be this cruel, or was this some twisted blessing? Without hesitation, Nina jumped to her feet, snatched her car keys, and ushered Camila out to the nearest 24-hour pharmacy. Within the hour, Camila found herself in Nina's bathroom, sitting in stunned silence as she stared at the pregnancy test. 2 lines, positive. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of pure fear. Ethan's betrayal had already destroyed her. Now she had to face a pregnancy on top of everything else. And how would Ethan react? Nina, hovering nearby, spotted the result and immediately pulled Camila into a comforting embrace. Whatever happens, I'm here for you. We'll figure it out. But Camila's mind was spinning with panic and uncertainty. She had always dreamed of being a mother, just not like this. Not under these circumstances. Not with a man who had torn her trust to shreds. She felt completely alone, her heart a tangle of heartbreak and confusion. Yet amid the chaos, a flicker of protectiveness bloomed for the tiny life inside her. Her life had veered off course. Now she would need every ounce of strength she had to face what lay ahead. The days that followed blurred into heartbreak and frayed nerves. Camila tried calling Ethan to tell him the news, but every time she pressed his number, nausea twisted her stomach, and the phone would slip from her trembling fingers. Finally, she found the courage to send a message. We need to talk. I have something important to tell you, he responded hours later with a cold indifferent. I'll be busy this week. Maybe next week. Fury bubbled in her chest as she typed back. It can't wait. But he never replied. That evening, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Ethan. It was a colleague from her design firm, Jenna Klein, and she sounded breathless. Camila, we've got a potential client. It's huge. Mr. Julian Wexler is launching a new luxury boutique hotel and needs a design team. He's a big name in West Coast real estate, and he specifically asked for us. Jenna continued. He saw some of your portfolio online and loved your work. Camila could barely process the words, her breath catching. She had heard of Julian Wexler, a multi-millionaire known for his sharp instincts, philanthropic work, and rumored rebellious streak. He was the only heir to the Wexler property empire, with developments sprinkled across every major city on the West Coast. That's amazing, Camila whispered. But Jenna, I'm a mess right now. Jenna's voice softened. I know what you're going through, Mila, but this project could put our firm on the map, and you need something solid, to ground you right now. This might be the perfect distraction. Nina encouraged her too. You can't let Ethan's betrayal steal your career. You're talented, Camila. You deserve this. So despite her personal chaos, Camila gathered herself and prepared for the meeting at the 5-star Wexler Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Her nerves were already worn thin, and the mix of anxiety and early pregnancy hormones made her hands tremble more than usual. She arrived early, dressed in a fitted navy blazer that subtly concealed the barely noticeable bump. She took the elevator to the 42nd floor, her heart thudding with each passing level. When the doors opened, she stepped into a pristine reception area. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed sweeping views of the Los Angeles skyline, and the room radiated understated luxury. She approached the front desk, politely introducing herself to a sharply dressed assistant. Within minutes, she was escorted to a spacious corner office. Julian Wexler stood by a large picture window, tall, composed, and exuding an air of effortless authority. When he turned around, Camila was struck by the intensity of his gaze. Steel-gray eyes that seemed to look right through her, quietly assessing. He gave a polite nod and gestured for her to sit. He looked younger than she expected, perhaps in his early 30s, with a defined jawline, neatly styled dark hair, and the kind of presence that made the entire room take notice. "Thank you for coming, Miss Hartley," he said, extending his hand. As she took it, a strange spark flickered between them. Camila quickly dismissed it, blaming her nerves. "It's a pleasure, Mr. Wexler," she replied, forcing a calmness she didn't fully feel. They dove into the plans for the new hotel project, an ambitious, upscale boutique property. Julian was meticulous, detailing his vision with precision. Understated elegance, a modern meets timeless design that would stand out in a competitive market. Camila listened closely, pushing past the occasional waves of exhaustion or nausea. This opportunity wasn't just about advancing her career. It was a much-needed lifeline, something to focus on amid the emotional wreckage of her life, if she could just hold it together. When he finished, she offered her ideas, referencing pieces from her portfolio. Julian's expression shifted, his eyes lighting up with genuine interest. "Your ideas are innovative," he said, nodding thoughtfully. "I can see why your firm speaks so highly of you." A faint smile played at his lips. "I think you can bring this vision to life." Camila blushed, a refreshing change from the tears she'd been so used to lately. "I'd be honored to take on the project." Julian leaned back in his sleek leather chair. "Excellent. I'll have my assistant send over the formal contracts. I look forward to working with you." Camila's heart fluttered. Some quiet voice deep in her mind whispered that this project might just change her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Little did she know how deeply she and Julian Wexler would become entwined. For now, Camila pushed aside thoughts of Ethan, her uncertain future, and the child growing inside her. She made a promise to herself. She would give this project her all. If nothing else, she'd prove that betrayal wouldn't define her. Work on Julian's project picked up quickly. Meetings, site visits, sample reviews, and late-night brainstorming sessions became her new normal. Camila threw herself into every task, and that dedication kept the heartbreak at bay, at least during the workday. But outside of those hours, reality clung to her like a second skin. She was pregnant. She felt it every morning when nausea forced her from bed, and again each evening when bone-deep fatigue set in. Nina kept encouraging her to follow up with Ethan, or at least confide in someone. But Camila resisted. She didn't know what kind of father Ethan would be. She didn't even know if he deserved the chance. He had shut her out completely, ignoring every call and message. The betrayal still echoed in her, muting any flicker of hope that he might care. The pregnancy loomed like a quiet storm. Her doctor confirmed she was around 7 weeks along. She was prescribed vitamins and advised to rest whenever she could, but rest felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. She had a major hotel project to lead, and a shattered heart to quietly repair. Nights were the hardest. She'd toss and turn on Nina's couch, worry wrapping around her chest like a vice. How would she raise a child alone? Would her career survive single motherhood? Nina tried to stay upbeat. "You're strong, Mila. You'll be fine, and you won't be alone." Camila forced a smile and nodded, but deep inside, an ache remained. She longed for a steady presence, someone who'd be there for every ultrasound, every craving, every kick. But Ethan had stolen that vision from her. Now she carried a child fathered by a man who had become a stranger, one consumed by his own selfish needs. One evening, while heading home from another long meeting at the Wexler offices, Camila bumped into Julian in the hallway. He looked surprisingly worn down, his tie loosened, hair slightly tousled, but he still managed a kind smile. "You're working late," he said, glancing at the time on his sleek watch. "I admire your dedication. I just want the designs to be perfect." Camila replied, "This project could define my career." Julian nodded, a flicker of warmth crossing his features. When passion aligns with talent, success is inevitable. Camila was flattered. She tried to keep the moment strictly professional, until her stomach turned sharply. A wave of nausea surged through her. She pressed a hand to her abdomen, trying to steady herself. "Are you okay?" Julian asked, alarmed by how pale she looked. She nodded quickly, trying to offer a reassuring smile. A reassuring smile, probably just something I ate, Camilla muttered, but Julian saw right through it. You don't look well. Let me at least take you to the lounge for a glass of water. Reluctantly, she followed him into a private executive lounge. The space was serene and tastefully designed, with plush seating and a panoramic view of the Los Angeles skyline glowing in the early evening haze. He handed her a bottle of chilled water, and she sipped it gratefully. Despite her efforts to maintain composure, Camilla realized just how fragile she must appear. Dark circles under her eyes, her complexion pale and tired. Julian watched her with a quiet concern that caught her off guard. I know we don't know each other well, he said gently, but if you need anything, I'm here. I value the people I work with. You're part of my team now. An unexpected lump rose in Camilla's throat. She blinked back tears. No one, not even Ethan, in recent weeks, had shown her this kind of simple, unassuming kindness. She tried to offer a polite, professional reply, but her voice trembled. Thank you, Mr. Wexler. I appreciate it. He offered a half smile. Call me Julian, and get some rest. Though the moment was brief, Camilla's heart thudded afterward. She felt exposed, embarrassed by her vulnerability, but at the same time, touched by Julian's sincerity. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel completely alone in the fight. What she didn't yet know was that this night marked the beginning of a subtle shift, one that would eventually leave her ex reeling in regret and bring her closer to a man more powerful and compassionate than she had ever imagined. Weeks turned into months, and Camilla's workload became both her salvation and her challenge. As her body adjusted to pregnancy, she learned to manage the morning sickness, carefully timing her day around bouts of queasiness. At night, she and Nina leafed through baby name books and murmured about lullabies and nursery colors. Motherhood still felt like a distant dream, but the fluttery little movements in her belly reminded her she wasn't alone anymore. Meanwhile, the hotel project with Julian advanced smoothly. Camilla spent long hours reviewing layouts, selecting textiles, testing color palettes, and creating 3D renderings of the boutique hotel's interiors. The synergy between them was undeniable. Julian's sharp, analytical eye paired seamlessly with Camilla's creative vision. Their collaboration remained strictly professional, yet underneath was a current of mutual respect, and maybe something more, unspoken but deeply felt. One afternoon, following an intense design meeting, Julian casually suggested lunch to discuss final details. The invitation made Camilla's pulse flutter. She told herself it was business, just business, but couldn't ignore the tiny flicker of excitement. They chose a quiet corner booth in a sleek, upscale Italian bistro. Camilla tried to concentrate on her pasta, but it wasn't easy. Not with Julian seated across from her, his piercing gray eyes attentively focused on every word she spoke. They talked about the project at first, but the conversation slowly drifted. Julian set his fork down and looked at her with quiet curiosity. You mentioned once that you grew up in Los Angeles. Do you still have family here? Camilla hesitated. Memories of her mother surfaced, sharp and fresh. My mom passed away last year, she said softly. She was really the only close family I had. My dad left when I was a kid. She gave a faint shrug. I guess I'm just used to being on my own. Julian's gaze clouded with sympathy. I'm sorry. That must have been hard. It was, Camilla admitted, her eyes dropping to her plate. And lately things have been complicated. She didn't explain further, and Julian didn't press. Instead, he offered a quiet nod of understanding. If there's anything I can do. Camilla quickly shifted the subject, not ready to open up about her pregnancy or the heartbreak Ethan had caused. They finished lunch, and Julian insisted on covering the bill. Despite her mild protests, the gesture, though gentlemanly, left her flustered. She wasn't used to this kind of kindness anymore. As they stepped outside, the early autumn sunshine bathed the sidewalk in golden light. A breeze stirred fallen leaves, sending them tumbling across the concrete in lazy spirals. Julian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, a faint crease appearing on his brow. I've got a board meeting in 15 minutes. I'll have to head back. He paused, then turned to her. Would you like a ride back to the office? Normally, Camilla would have politely declined, but her feet ached and a soft fatigue tugged at her. I'd appreciate that. They climbed into the back of a sleek black SUV. The ride was brief, filled with occasional talk about the project. Yet something in the quiet between them felt oddly intimate. When they arrived, Julian lingered for a moment, as if searching for something more to say. In the end, he only gave her a warm smile before stepping into the elevator. Camila stood still for a second, hand instinctively moving to her belly, where her baby stirred faintly. A swirl of emotions churned in her chest, gratitude for Julian's kindness and an unfamiliar flicker of attraction. She didn't know how to process it. Biting her lip, she pushed the thought aside and focused on the work ahead. Still, something whispered in the back of her mind. This man is going to change your life in ways you can't imagine. As Camila's pregnancy neared the end of her first trimester, her body began to shift. Her skin had a new glow, and the exhaustion slowly gave way to cautious hope. But no matter how often she reached out to Ethan, he remained unreachable. Voicemails were ignored, texts left unread. The sadness began to harden into anger. Had he truly discarded her so completely? Just as Camila was about to let go of any remaining hope, Ethan reappeared. Unannounced and unexpected, late one night. A frantic pounding on Nina's apartment door jolted her awake. Heart racing, she quickly threw on a robe and rushed to the door. There he stood, disheveled, smelling of alcohol and visibly unraveling. Ethan Caldwell. His bloodshot eyes darted toward her, and his posture was heavy with desperation. Camila's heart thundered with a tangled mix of fear, resentment, and pain that hadn't fully healed. "What are you doing here?" she asked sharply. Ethan shoved a hand through his tousled hair. "I messed up, Mila," he croaked. "I heard you're working with that millionaire Wexler. Moved on already, huh?" Camila's face froze. So that's what this was. Not remorse, not an apology. Jealousy, fueled by gossip. He must have heard whispers somewhere. Her voice turned ice cold. "What I do now is none of your business, Ethan. You made that very clear." He stepped forward unsteadily, eyes gleaming with something between regret and bitterness. "I was stupid, okay? Sabrina was just... I don't know. I was confused." "Confused?" Camila snapped, bristling. "Confused about cheating on me, or about ghosting me for weeks after I found out?" Her hand moved instinctively to her slightly rounded belly, the protective gesture impossible to miss. Ethan's eyes followed. Realization flickered across his face. "You're pregnant?" A surge of fury welled up inside Camila. She had wanted to tell him, but not like this. Not with him slurring, drunk on Nina's doorstep, flinging petty accusations. "Yes," she said, her voice shaky but firm, layered with hurt and anger. "I tried to tell you, Ethan, but you didn't care enough to listen." His jaw dropped. He took another clumsy step, nearly stumbling. "Why didn't you try harder?" he snapped. "You know I've been going through a lot." Camila's fists clenched at her sides. "I'm done trying, Ethan. I can't trust you. And now you show up here drunk, accusing me of moving on too fast?" He reached toward her, but Nina suddenly appeared behind Camila, crossing her arms and stepping forward protectively. "Get lost, Ethan," she said sharply, "or I'm calling the police." Ethan's face flushed with anger, but he took a shaky step back. The dim hallway light cast long shadows as he stumbled toward the stairs. "Bella, please," he whined. "I want to fix this." But Camila's eyes were cold now. A distant memory of Julian offering her water, checking in on her work, treating her with respect, flashed in her mind. It was a stark contrast to the wreck of a man now standing before her. She swallowed hard, holding back tears. "It's too late." Nina slammed the door shut. They heard Ethan curse under his breath before the sound of his steps shuffled down the hall. Leaning against the door, Camila felt her whole body shake. Adrenaline and heartbreak tangled together inside her. Then she slid down to the floor, tears stinging at the corners of her eyes. Nina knelt beside her and wrapped an arm gently around her shoulders. "You did the right thing," Nina whispered. "He can't just decide he wants you back now." "Not after everything," Nina said, voice firm. Camila sniffled, nodding, though a quiet voice in the back of her mind whispered, "He's the father of your child." Would she ever truly be free of Ethan? Or was she now tethered to him forever, by the life growing inside her? In the days following Ethan's drunken appearance, Camila lived in a constant state of unease. She changed her phone number and notified Nina's building security not to let him in. Part of her grieved the finality of it all, the dreams of love and forever she once clung to. But another part of her felt an unexpected release, like a weight had been lifted. Meanwhile, Work on Julian's boutique hotel project continued. Camila received consistent praise for her creativity and innovative vision. She often found herself in Julian's company, reviewing fabric samples, discussing layout ideas, and walking through construction sites. Though his demeanor remained strictly professional, there was a quiet warmth in his eyes whenever they spoke. Something curious, yet respectful. One afternoon they met at the construction site. Concrete walls, metal beams, and scaffolding surrounded them, the clang of tools echoing off every surface. Camila, in a hard hat and safety vest, guided Julian through the proposed design for the future lobby. As she gestured to the layout on the blueprint, a wave of dizziness hit her. She blinked rapidly and swayed slightly. Julian's hand reached out instantly, steadying her. "You've looked pale all morning. Are you sure you're okay?" Camila forced a tight smile. "I'm fine, just tired." Julian gently led her away from the noise and chaos to a temporary site office nearby. He offered her a seat and handed her a cold bottle of water. "I worry about you," he said softly, setting aside his usual businesslike tone. "You push yourself too hard." Her eyes softened with appreciation, but the closeness of the moment made her pulse quicken. She had been carrying a secret for weeks, one that now threatened to spill out. Could she trust him? Swallowing hard, she decided to share a piece of the truth. "I have personal reasons for not slowing down. Let's just say I'm going through a big life change." Julian didn't blink. "Is this something I can help with?" His words were so genuine, so gentle, they unraveled something in Camila's chest. Without planning it, the words fell from her lips. "I'm pregnant." A heavy silence filled the small room. She braced for shock, for pity, for a shift in how he saw her. But Julian's expression only softened. He nodded slowly, like puzzle pieces had finally come together. "Does the father know?" Camila's voice shook. "He knows. We're no longer together. It's complicated." Julian pressed his lips into a thin line, a flicker of empathy crossing his features. "I'm sorry you're going through this alone. No one should have to." Emotion tightened her throat. She had expected judgment, maybe even distance. But instead, what she found was acceptance. "Thank you," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I promise this won't affect my work. I'll see this project through to the end." Julian reached out gently, resting a hand over hers. "I know you will," he said softly. "But your well-being comes first. Don't ever think you have to do this alone." His kindness unlocked something in Camila's heart. For the first time in weeks, she felt seen, truly seen. Safe, supported, in a way Ethan had never made her feel. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks, but she didn't hide them. Julian handed her a tissue, his quiet presence more comforting than anything he could have said aloud. That moment marked a turning point. A fragile trust began to bloom between them, slow but steady. It opened a path toward something deeper. Camila didn't know what those feelings might become, but in the midst of uncertainty and fear, she felt a flicker of something she hadn't dared to feel in a long time. Hope. Maybe, even amid heartbreak, she could find her way to happiness. Maybe it would lead her out of regret and into the arms of someone who truly cared. As the hotel project gained momentum, Camila's professional reputation soared. The Wexler Group praised her visionary work during meetings and at industry events, crediting her with the bold aesthetic direction of the boutique hotel. Media outlets across Los Angeles began speculating about the mysterious designer behind the much-anticipated Wexler Hotel, sparking both curiosity and admiration among her peers. But fame had its price. Whispers began to circulate, not just about her design talent, but about her personal life. Some claimed she was more than just Julian Wexler's lead designer. People pointed to how often they were seen together, conveniently ignoring that it was a necessity of the job. A few tabloids published grainy photos of them leaving restaurants or walking out of the construction site together, spinning dramatic headlines about secret affairs and hidden romances. Camila heard the rumors whenever she walked the firm's halls. Colleagues who once smiled warmly now gave her tight, guarded glances. She tried to ignore the jealousy, but it still stung. What hurt most was that the gossip threatened to overshadow her work. The implication that her achievements were due to proximity, not talent, made her stomach twist. It also forced her to confront the growing admiration she held for Julian. Was it mutual? Or was she just fooling herself, caught in a web of speculation? One evening after a long day of site inspections, Camila packed up her desk. Her back ached, her feet throbbed, and her subtly growing baby bump felt heavier than usual. Just as she was about to head out, her phone buzzed. It was Julian. "Are you free for a quick dinner? There's something I'd like to discuss about the lounge design." Her heart skipped. Was this just work? Or something more? Either way, her curiosity won out. "Sure. Where should I meet you?" she replied. He sent the name of a quaint French bistro downtown. Her nerves sparked with energy as she hailed a cab, half expecting paparazzi to leap out from the shadows. The softly lit restaurant was warm and welcoming. A hostess led her to a private alcove. Julian stood as she approached, ever the gentleman, pulling out her chair. "Thank you for meeting me so late," he said with a warm smile. Offering a warm smile. "I know you must be tired." Camila laughed lightly, a bit self-conscious. "All part of the job, right?" They chatted about the lounge design, sketching ideas onto a notepad and debating color palettes. But as the meal wore on, Julian grew quieter, more reflective. Eventually, he set his fork down and met her gaze with an unusual seriousness. "I'm aware of the rumors going around," he said gently. "Some of my acquaintances have suggested there might be something personal between us." Heat surged into Camila's cheeks. She looked down at her plate. "I've heard the gossip too. It's uncomfortable. I never wanted you to feel pressured or judged." Julian nodded. "You've done exceptional work, and it frustrates me that your talent is being clouded by baseless assumptions." Camila exhaled, her emotions tangled. Relief, gratitude, uncertainty. She looked up and met his eyes, searching for sincerity. "Thank you for saying that." A moment of quiet stretched between them. Julian's eyes lingered on hers, and a flicker of something unspoken danced there. Something warm, maybe even vulnerable. "I also want you to know," he added, carefully choosing his words, "that while my professional respect for you is unwavering, I do care about you personally. I admire your strength, your dedication." Camila's heart thumped, her ears buzzed. She wasn't naive, she had felt the pull too. A subtle but undeniable chemistry. But her life was complicated. She was pregnant with another man's child. Could she afford to let her guard down? Sensing her hesitation, Julian cleared his throat. "I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Let's stay focused on the project, and on your well-being. Anything else, we can navigate in time. I just wanted to be transparent so you don't ever question my intentions." Camila smiled, a soft warmth blooming in her chest. "Thank you for saying that." They finished dinner, the atmosphere lighter now that the tension between them had been gently addressed. When Camila stepped out into the cool night air, she couldn't help but marvel at how far her life had come. Just a few months ago, she was caught in a toxic relationship with Ethan. Now she was building an independent career, and maybe, just maybe, forming a deeper bond with a man who seemed genuinely kind. Still, a quiet voice inside her whispered caution. Love could be treacherous. And Ethan's recent reappearance had reminded her just how dangerous it could be to believe the past could be erased. The future shimmered with promise, but also with uncertainty. Camila stood somewhere between hope and fear. The following week unfolded in a flurry of deadlines, finalizing budgets, selecting furnishings, approving last-minute renderings. The hotel's grand opening was just 3 months away, and each day felt like another square on a countdown calendar. Despite the mounting pressure, Camila found herself. Her creativity thrived as the project neared its final stages, bringing a renewed energy to her days. But her evenings were far less glamorous, filled with prenatal vitamins, doctor visits, and baby name books. Camila was well into her second trimester now. The bump was more noticeable. Nina encouraged her to buy maternity clothes, but Camila hesitated. She wasn't ready to make her condition public, not at the firm, not yet. Still, it was becoming harder to hide. One late afternoon, as she was leaving the Wexler office, a voice called out her name. She turned. There, standing just inside the glass lobby doors, was Ethan. His eyes were bloodshot, and a jolt of alarm surged through her chest. She thought she had blocked him out of her life for good. How had he known she'd be here? Instinctively, she wrapped her arms around her belly protectively. "What are you doing here, Ethan?" He scanned the elegant surroundings with a smirk. "So this is where you spend your time now? Cozying up to your rich boss?" Anger flared within her, but Camila kept her voice level. "That's none of your business. Leave before I call security. Ethan stepped closer, his tone shifting to something darker, lower. I'm still the father of that baby, Mila. You can't just cut me out. Her heart raced. Deep down, she knew Ethan had rights, but the bitterness of his betrayal ignited her resentment. Now he cared? Where were you for months? She hissed. His gaze flicked to her growing bump, as if noticing it for the first time. I was confused, okay? But I want to be part of this, part of their life. Camila's lips trembled. A wave of mixed emotions threatened to crack her resolve. Being a father is more than words, Ethan. It's about commitment. Respect. You cheated. You ignored me. Why should I trust you with my child? Before he could respond, firm footsteps echoed nearby. Julian appeared, his tall frame exuding quiet authority. He glanced between them, instantly reading the tension. Is everything all right here? He asked, his voice calm but unmistakably firm. Ethan narrowed his eyes at him. This doesn't concern you. Julian's jaw tensed, but his tone remained even. Camila is an essential part of my team and a friend. If she's in distress, it absolutely concerns me. Camila felt a wave of relief. Gratitude bloomed in her chest. She turned to Ethan, voice steady. Leave, Ethan. We can talk about custody or visitation another time. Not like this. Not when you show up unannounced and start hurling accusations. Ethan's glare shifted between them. But when he noticed the security guard watching from across the lobby, he stepped back. With a final curse under his breath, he stormed out. Shaken, Camila leaned against a marble column, her breath shallow. Julian stepped closer and gently touched her shoulder. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Are you okay? She nodded, tears pricking her eyes. I'll manage. I just didn't expect him to show up here. Julian hesitated, then gently reached for her hand. If you need help, legal advice, protection, please let me know. Camila swallowed the lump forming in her throat, deeply moved by his sincere concern. In that moment, the contrast between the two men in her life became crystal clear. One had shattered her trust, and the other had done nothing but stand by her, offering unwavering support. Still, she knew the path ahead was tangled. Ethan's legal rights as the baby's father could complicate everything, no matter how she felt about Julian. But as she walked out of the building with Julian by her side, she felt a shift. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone in this journey. Together, they stepped into an uncertain future, hearts guarded but hopeful that love might bloom amid the chaos. As the hotel's grand opening approached, Julian grew more protective of Camila. If she worked late, he insisted on sending her home in a company car. He quietly checked in, making sure she took breaks and ate properly. Small gestures that warmed her heart. Meanwhile, Camila's pregnancy became harder to conceal. She experimented with creative layering and draping, but her coworkers' whispers only grew louder. It wasn't just the visible bump. They also noticed the way Julian lingered during their conversations, the subtle tenderness in his eyes when they met hers. Despite the growing speculation, Julian maintained a strictly professional demeanor in public. He never crossed a line that might validate the gossip. But in quieter, private moments, there was a closeness neither of them could deny. One evening, Camila stayed late, determined to finalize the color scheme for the guest suites. The office was mostly empty. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Los Angeles skyline sparkled under a darkening sky. Suddenly, the overhead lights shut off. Startled, she stood, only to see a familiar figure approaching. Julian. He held a small birthday cake, lit with glowing candles. His deep laugh echoed softly in the dim office. I asked your friend Nina when your birthday was. She told me it was today. Happy birthday, Camila. Tears sprang to her eyes. She had completely lost track of the date, consumed by deadlines, heartache, and the quiet anxieties of pregnancy. No one else had remembered, least of all Ethan. She felt overwhelmed by the simple gesture. Thank you, she whispered, cheeks warm with emotion. Julian set the cake down on a table, its flickering light casting a soft glow across the room. Make a wish. Camila closed her eyes, heart pounding. What could she wish for? There were too many desires left unspoken. A healthy baby, a safe future, and maybe even the courage to love again. She opened her eyes and blew out the candles. A wisp of smoke curled into the still air. Julian smiled. So? How does it feel to be a year wiser? She let out a soft laugh, brushing away a tear. I don't know about wiser, but definitely more grateful for the little things. A thoughtful silence settled between them. The candlelight danced across Julian's face, illuminating the concern etched into his features. "You've been carrying so much alone," Julian said. "You deserve more than that." Camilla's throat tightened. She wanted to tell him that sometimes just knowing he was in her corner made her feel like the luckiest woman in the world. But fear held her back. Fear of heartbreak, of scandal, of further complicating an already tangled life. Julian seemed to sense her hesitation. He stepped closer, gently placing a hand on her arm. "I'd never want to pressure you, Camilla, but if you ever feel ready, I hope you know my concern for you goes beyond work. You mean more to me than just a partner in design." Her breath caught. There it was, that raw, quiet vulnerability in his eyes, a rare honesty she hadn't seen from anyone since her mother passed. She thought about all the times Ethan had brushed off her feelings or dismissed her ambitions. She compared that to Julian, his constant encouragement, his calm presence, the sense of safety he gave her. A lump rose in her throat, but she found her voice. "Thank you. That means more than I can say." They stood there in the quiet, the scent of extinguished birthday candles lingering in the air, the office around them still and soft with shadows. Though no confessions were spoken aloud, something unspoken blossomed, an unvoiced promise that they would explore the connection forming between them, one step at a time. Camilla knew her pregnancy, and Ethan's occasional reappearances would make things complicated. But for the first time in months, she felt a gentle flicker of real hope. As winter settled over Los Angeles, Camilla and Julian quietly grew closer. There was no announcement, only the natural unfolding of something real. Warm smiles, gentle gestures, silent support. Julian began accompanying her to prenatal appointments after work. The nurses raised their brows and photographers occasionally lingered nearby. But Julian never flinched, never hesitated. Ethan's appearances had become infrequent and brief. Every time he showed up, security was quick to intervene. Camilla grew more confident in her decision to shut him out completely. It was the best choice, for her sanity and for her baby. Still, the tabloids hummed with speculation. Paparazzi captured images of Julian leaving OB/GYN clinics alongside a visibly pregnant Camilla. Gossip columns recycled old photos of her and Ethan, fueling curiosity over the baby's paternity. The Wexler Group issued a brief statement praising Camilla as a talented designer. But the press refused to let the story die. One evening, curled up on the plush couch in Julian's penthouse, Camilla watched him scroll through yet another headline dripping with innuendo. She gently touched his arm and urged him to let the gossip fade. His frustration softened, replaced by concern for her peace, for her privacy. Her heart swelled with gratitude. In that moment, she didn't see a wealthy benefactor. She saw a partner. A man whose love wasn't loud or flashy, but steady and deeply rooted. Sitting side by side, they let the quiet moment settle into something stronger. A shared promise that whatever Ethan tried, they were ready to face it together. At last, the big day. The big day arrived. The Wexler Boutique Hotel's lobby gleamed beneath sparkling chandeliers with modern art installations, luxurious seating, and custom fixtures, all proudly bearing Camilla's creative signature. Dressed in a flowing gown that elegantly concealed her growing bump, she stood beside Julian, nervous excitement fluttering in her chest. This launch could define her career. Julian took the podium, poised and polished, and thanked his team for making the ambitious vision a reality. When he called out Camilla's name, applauding her design contributions, the room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed and reporters surged forward for quotes and photos. Camilla felt proud, but also tense. Her work was finally in the spotlight. Suddenly, a commotion at the entrance turned heads. Ethan burst through security, eyes wild with frustration. "Not here. Not now," Camilla thought, panic tightening in her chest. "You act like I don't exist," Ethan shouted, jabbing a finger toward her rounded stomach. "That's my child." Julian immediately stepped forward, calm but commanding. "This isn't the place for this. Please leave." Ethan scoffed. "Did you really think you could hide me forever, Camilla? You owe me the chance to be a father." Camilla's voice shook as she faced him, equal parts fury and grief. "You disappeared when I needed you. You ignored every message. Don't show up now pretending to care." Security quickly intervened, guiding Ethan away as cameras flashed, capturing every tense second. His voice echoed with threats as he was escorted out of the building. Camilla's face flushed with heat as murmurs filled the room. But Julian's hand landed gently on her shoulder, his expression etched with concern. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. She exhaled shakily, blinking back tears. "It's not your fault." Though shaken and humiliated, Camilla felt something else beneath the embarrassment. Relief. There would be no more hiding, no more secrets. Her pregnancy and Ethan's absence were no longer rumors or whispers. They were truth. Surrounded by journalists and guests, Camilla reached for Julian's hand, and instead of judgment, she saw admiration in the eyes around her, respect for her work, sympathy for her struggle. And beside her, unwavering and calm, Julian stood like a shield. He guided her away from the crowd and into a quiet corridor, promising to handle the fallout. And in that quiet moment, Camilla realized that amid the chaos, she had gained something irreplaceable. A partner who stood beside her when it mattered most. The grand opening made headlines, not only for the stunning hotel debut, but for the emotional confrontation in the lobby. Media outlets rehashed the scene. Camilla's pregnancy, Ethan's disruption, and Julian's poised response. While tabloids reveled in drama, respected publications praised Camilla's design brilliance and Julian's quiet chivalry. Camilla braced herself for backlash, calls from her firm, doubts from clients, disapproval from the Wexler Group's board. But instead, her inbox overflowed with support. Colleagues praised her courage. Her firm stood behind her. And to her surprise, new clients were drawn not only to her creativity, but to her strength. Her future was no longer a question mark. It was an open path, and she no longer walked it alone. The legal threat lingered. Ethan's claim to his parental rights wasn't something Camilla could ignore. But Julian helped her connect with a trusted family attorney who reassured her that Ethan's record of absence and erratic behavior would weigh heavily in any custody arrangement. The relief she felt was indescribable. She no longer had to face any of this alone. One night, as winter winds whispered outside, Camilla curled up on Julian's couch, cradling a mug of hot chocolate. She wore a soft knit sweater that stretched gently over her baby bump. Julian joined her, tossing a thick blanket over both of them. The fireplace flickered, casting warm shadows that danced on the walls. "How are you feeling?" he asked, resting a hand gently on her belly. He had been fascinated by every milestone of her pregnancy, from the first tiny kick to the most recent sonogram. "Tired," she admitted, leaning against him. But relieved. Having everything out in the open, hiding was exhausting. Julian nodded, his gaze lingering on her face. "I'm sorry it had to happen so publicly, but I'm not sorry that part's behind us." He paused, then added softly, "Camilla, I want to be in your life and the baby's beyond just friendship and support, if you'll let me." Her throat tightened. She reached up, brushing her fingers against his cheek. "You've already given me more than I ever expected. I can't imagine doing this without you." A spark lit his eyes. "So, you'll let me stay by your side?" Camilla answered with a gentle kiss, one that held gratitude, affection, and the promise of something beautiful to come. Their bond had become unbreakable, forged not by circumstance but by shared struggles, trust, and genuine love. In the hush of that moment, wrapped in warmth and flickering firelight, Camilla let herself believe in the possibility of a happy ending. She still bore the wounds from Ethan's betrayal, but Julian's quiet devotion reminded her that love, real love, could heal. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt like she belonged. A family was forming, not just through blood, but through unwavering care, respect, and choice. As winter gave way to spring, Camilla's due date crept closer. She balanced finishing design work on smaller projects with prepping the nursery and deepening her relationship with Julian. The media chatter had finally died down, eclipsed by fresher scandals. Ethan sent a few half-hearted texts about visitation, but Camilla deferred to her attorney, choosing not to engage. Then one morning it began. She awoke before sunrise with a deep ache in her back and a sharp, rolling cramp. The signs were unmistakable. Labor had started. Anxiety and excitement surged through her as she grabbed her phone. Julian rushed over within minutes. They arrived at the hospital, hearts racing, as the delivery team prepped the room. Nina joined them shortly after, offering hugs and steady support. Julian never left Camilla's side, holding her hand through every painful contraction. The hours blurred into waves of pain, but Camilla stayed focused, on the rhythmic beeping of the monitor, the calm encouragement in Julian's voice, the shared breath between them. And then, as morning light filtered through the blinds, a cry pierced the silence. Her baby boy had arrived, pink, healthy, perfect. Tears spilled down Camila's cheeks as the nurse placed the tiny newborn in her arms. She gazed down at his delicate features, overwhelmed with fierce, protective love. Julian stood beside her, looking at the baby with awe. Camila hesitated, unsure how Julian might react in that moment, but the tenderness in his eyes erased every doubt. He leaned in gently, cradling the baby's head and whispering, "He's perfect." The days that followed their hospital stay felt surreal. Camila recovered from the exhaustion of childbirth, cherishing every waking moment with her newborn son. She named him Liam Hartley, honoring her late mother's maiden name. David's name was left off the birth certificate, a decision that brought a flicker of sadness. He may have been Liam's biological father, but he had chosen absence when it counted most. Julian, on the other hand, was present in every possible way. He changed diapers, learned how to swaddle, and softly sang lullabies while rocking Liam to sleep. Watching Julian slip so naturally into a fatherly role made Camila's heart swell. She would never forget the quiet moment he kissed Liam's forehead and whispered, "I promise I'll always be there for you." On the day of their discharge, Julian helped Camila into the passenger seat of his car. Liam was safely secured in the back. As they pulled away from the hospital, soft rain tapped gently on the windows. Camila glanced at the rearview mirror, catching sight of Liam's peaceful sleeping face. Then she turned to Julian. A quiet joy settled over her, a feeling of stepping into a future she had once believed was lost. Yes, Ethan's regret was inevitable. And yes, there might be legal battles still to face. But Camila had made her choice. The man who held her hand, who loved her and protected her and embraced Liam as his own, that was Liam's real father in every way that mattered. Julian reached over and laced his fingers with hers, and in that moment, Camila knew her future held more love than her past had ever dared to promise. A few weeks after Liam's birth, Ethan reappeared one final time, this time with a lawyer, demanding visitation rights. Camila, exhausted from sleepless nights and fiercely protective of her son, stood her ground. The legal proceedings were swift. The judge, presented with documented evidence of Ethan's repeated absence, emotional instability, and failure to offer financial support, granted only supervised visits, pending a full psychological evaluation. Furious, Ethan stormed out of the courtroom, hurling accusations and curses at Camila. But his real heartbreak didn't come from the ruling. It came from the realization that whatever connection he once had with her was gone. For good. From across the courthouse steps, he watched as Julian helped Camila into the car, gently buckling Liam into the infant's seat. That image, the family he could have had, cut deeper than any court order. But there was nothing he could do now to rewrite the choices he'd made. That evening, back at home, Camila and Julian celebrated quietly. Liam slept soundly in his nursery, a soft nightlight casting gentle shapes on the walls. Camila rested in Julian's arms, a wave of relief washing over her. The legal ordeal had been draining, but it was over. The outcome had reaffirmed her choice, her strength, and her future. Sensing her thoughts, Julian whispered, "You're free now, completely." She nodded, eyes shimmering. "I am." She glanced toward the nursery door and smiled. "We are," Camila whispered. They embraced, letting the silence speak louder than words. And in that quiet, tender moment, Camila realized her life had come full circle. Betrayal had once broken her, but from the wreckage she had built something extraordinary. A new life with a partner who respected and cherished her, and a child who would grow up never doubting his worth. Ethan's regret was his alone to carry. Camila's journey stood as a testament to resilience and hope. Betrayed by the man she once loved, she found the courage not only to rebuild her career, but to open her heart to a love deeper than anything she had ever imagined. In the face of heartbreak, an unplanned pregnancy, and the glaring spotlight of public judgment, she refused to be defined by her past. Instead, she emerged stronger than ever, as the devoted mother of baby Liam and the beloved partner of Julian Wexler, a powerful yet compassionate man whose love anchored her through every storm. Ethan's regret faded into the background, a distant echo, a reminder that true love and loyalty cannot be claimed, they must be earned. Thank you for joining Camila's journey through betrayal, redemption, and the triumph of second chances. If this emotional roller coaster moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more unforgettable stories that honor strength, perseverance, and the healing power of unconditional love. Let's keep these stories alive together. Dear friend, life doesn't always break where we expect it to. Sometimes, it cracks us open in the very places we thought were strongest. Trust, love, family. But in those moments of deepest pain, we're handed a rare invitation to begin again, not as who we were, but as who we were always meant to become. As the Stoics remind us, what stands in the way becomes the way. Camila didn't just survive her betrayal, she transformed it into the foundation of something far greater. And maybe like her, you're standing in the ruins of what was. If so, take heart. What's ahead may just be the life your soul was waiting for. Keep rising, keep believing. Your best chapter might still be unwritten. If this story touched something in you, help it reach someone else. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt journeys that remind us we're never truly alone in our battles and never beyond redemption.